day.
All
Have
right.
you ever met anybody famous?
I wouldn't say I've met him,
Okay.
but I've been close enough to see him up close.
Okay.
And both times was in DFW Airport. I just
Okay.
happened to be there.
Okay.
And one time I saw the guy from the Green Mile, the big guy from the Green Mile.
Oh shoot! I wish I knew his name. Did he pass away?
Something Michael Thomas
Oh.
Michaels.
Yeah.
Michael.
Chaz Michael.
Yeah, I think we know who we're talking about, though,
Yeah,
right?
I know here. Duncan Michael. No.
Duncan Michael Hall.
There's a Duncan and there's a Michael in there.
Is there a Hall in there?
Might be.
Or a Thomas? Michael Duncan
Michael
Thomas?
Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan.
There you go.
Yeah,
Right?
I saw.
That is
right.
Okay.
And when I saw him,
Was he massive?
yeah, he's massive,
Okay.
but he wasn't as tall as they made him look in Green Mile. So I
Okay,
don't know how
okay.
tall he was, but he's still tall.
Yeah.
But not like 7 feet tall, like they made him look like in Green Mile.
By the way, my first introduction to him is definitely C Spot Run.
There you go. Yeah, he played the sensitive yet aggressive
Yeah. Dog
FBI
trainer.
agent.
Yeah, the one that'll whoop you up if you're a criminal, but then when his dog goes missing, he goes, "Where is he?" You know, he's got that big voice. Those big doe eyes.
Yeah, he
Sir, we have a lead on the dog.
he loses his mind when his dog goes missing. Yeah, because he's so into
So
his
how
dog.
tall do you think he was? And so was this like in the heat of the Green Mile fame
It
for
was
him?
it was early on. I mean, he
Okay.
was famous, but he wasn't like everybody would recognize. Well, I guess he's a guy everybody would recognize anyway.
Yeah.
You couldn't help it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you see him, he's one of those guys that's definitely like, even if he's not an actor, that dude, he played in the NFL beforehand.
I don't
right?
know, but he was giant.
Yeah.
So something along those lines. Yeah, and I saw him at the airport. He was waiting on an airplane, and I walked by
You
and
think
I'm
he
like,
has to buy the extra seat?
I bet he sits. Because I heard one time,
Okay.
and this was I heard somebody doing. I think it was an online interview with somebody, and they said they happened to sit next to Abdul-Jabbar,
Okay.
and he was riding coach like in a regular airplane,
What?
but he had the seat that was in the walkway.
Yeah, the emergency exit.
The emergency exit. Yeah, so he had the
That's
room for
still
his
not
legs.
that much more.
It's not.
It's good for dudes like me and you, 6 foot plus, but
Yeah.
not Kareem, man.
Well, I guess that was the best he could do at that
Yeah.
point. But
At that point,
yeah, but
the
I'm
next
sure
flight
that
he
was
took,
kind
he
of
was up front flying the plane, right?
Yeah, in airplane
With Leslie Nielsen and
yeah.
stuff.
Roger, huh?
yeah.
That's a line from Airplane. Yeah, if you haven't seen Airplane, well,
Do
that's
your-
our kind of
Do
humor. It's
yourself
stupid,
a favor.
Stupid
Yeah.
humor. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Go
Simple
watch
jokes.
Airplane.
So that's one. I've got another one, but I'm wondering if you have now.
It's the same kind of thing. I haven't really met anybody, and honestly, I haven't really interacted with anybody famous either.
Yeah.
The closest I've ever been is like when you go to an NBA game early and you see Luka doing warm-ups and you're this far away from him.
Right.
Obviously I don't have courtside seats.
Right.
Hopefully one day,
yeah.
if this all pays off, one day I got courtsides, right?
Wouldn't count on it.
If you go a couple hours before the game, you can go sit courtside,
Right.
And you see how giant those dudes are.
Yeah. Incredible. Massive dudes.
Yeah.
So the other, well, you know what? Now that I think about it, I've got a couple of them. So
Okay.
the other one I saw in an airport
Sure.
was Miss Congeniality. Her name slips me now. She was in the movie Miss Congeniality. Sandra
Speed?
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And by the way, there's we have this, you and I have this, we categorize people, right?
Sure.
And there's like 1% people
Yeah.
who are just the most beautiful, like they just hit the jackpot in the gene pool.
Yeah.
Right? And when you see them, you know immediately.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see them in like normal people are that.
We're talking Brad Pitt, Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
That one dude that got arrested then became a cologne model. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
That Knicks guy?
Yeah. He had a tattoo on it. Yeah. Teardrop
He
tattoo.
had like a buzz cut.
Yeah, yeah.
And from his mugshot, you're like, Dad.
Yeah, people fell in love. Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure Aquos or whatever called him.
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Next thing you know,
Eros, what am I
right,
thinking of?
He's making money from prison. Yeah, they're going to prison
Yeah,
to
Polo
run.
said we need that guy on
That's
payroll,
right.
and they started doing him cologne
Yeah,
commercials.
but Sandra Bullock definitely was one of those, because I was walking along and I walked past, and I always have my head on a swivel when I'm in airports.
Sure, yeah.
Anywhere there's a lot of people, I don't want to miss any coolness.
Yeah.
So I'm always checking
Plus,
everything out.
Especially in spots like that, it's not the best idea to be looking face down anyway. You could,
Yeah.
could run you into somebody or put you in an incourteous situation.
Yeah,
You
and this
probably
was
do wanna
all
have-
before cell phones too, right? So
Oh,
everybody's
sure,
head
sure,
was
sure.
up anyway.
Sure, yeah.
And I glanced over and I thought, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful. And I was probably 30 yards away, long
Okay.
ways, a long ways
But
away.
Oh, so she was 30-yard beautiful. Is what you're
30
saying.
yard beautiful.
That's the
Yeah,
we're gonna
there
start
you
calling
go.
it.
Yeah, and I glanced over and I'm like, God, that is that's striking lady there.
Yeah,
And then I was like, I did a double take and I'm like, oh, I know why. That's Sandra Bullock.
that's Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
She's a professional, beautiful lady.
She's a professional, beautiful lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I saw her in the airport. But as I think about it, so I grew up in Dallas, and
And by the way, let's just put that out there too. Sandra Bullock is your type.
yes, that your mom was a brunette with fair skin.
Yep.
And
So if she checks all of the boxes for beautiful lady for you,
Yes.
Sandra Bullock is one of them.
right, Cindy Crawford,
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock. They all,
So
yeah,
if you're listening, Sandy, just kidding. It's fine.
yeah. So my wife was
Especially if you can cook. Just kidding.
which I will make an exception if they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
cook,
yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
we've talked about this.
Cindy Crawford, Sandy Bullock, and then whoever runs America's Test Kitchen. That lady.
It don't matter how she
Yeah,
looks.
yeah, yeah.
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 If you're single,
Rachel Ray.
oh, Rachel Ray's up there too. Something about Rachel Ray gets my attention too. Maybe it's the combination.
Yeah, I think it's the spices. I think is what it is.
Well, she does have the brunette and fair skin.
Sure, sure.
And she's bubbly, has a bubbly personality,
Yeah.
but she can cook too. That
That's helpful. That's
yeah,
over the
that
top,
ratchets
man.
her up
Yeah.
the scale for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's so. What we're going back to ultimately is my
Hey,
wife was brunette
Yeah.
and fair skinned, and when I married her, I thought she was beautiful. But the longer I was married to her, the more beautiful she became, and
Sure.
she became my picture of beauty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so when I would see people that I thought were beautiful, inevitably, and there's a story about that with Shelley one time. My wife and I were not jealous of other people. We knew we loved each other. We were good with that.
Yeah.
So Shelley on occasion would look around and she'd say, "Oh, there's a handsome dude," and I'd look over and she was right. It was classically handsome guy, right?
Yeah.
And if I saw a pretty lady, I would say, "There's a pretty lady," and she would say, "Oh, she is pretty." So that was the way we did things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I didn't really realize it until we'd probably been married 15 or 20 years. And we were in a Walmart, and I said, "Oh my gosh, look at that girl over there." And she was probably mid-20s, and
Sure.
we're much older at this point.
Yeah.
And I said, that lady over there is just striking. And Shelley looked, and then she said, you see what's happening, don't you? And I said, "What's happening?" She said, "What color hair does she have?" I said, "Well, she's a brunette."
Yeah.
"Well, what color is her skin?" She's fair-skinned. "Can you see her eyes?" I said, "Yeah, they're either blue or green. They're light."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And she said, "That's what I look like."
Yeah.
She said, every time you point out somebody's beautiful, they look like me.
Have I told you the Zach
so-
story?
Nuh-uh.
Oh, this is greatness.
Okay.
So my next youngest brother, his name is Zach,
Right.
right? And he's been married to his wife Danica, right, for 5 years, right?
Okay.
Almost 5 years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so when we were in college, right, they were doing a little bit of a long distance deal.
Right.
And me and Zach, we would watch TV shows together. We're roommates in college, right? And
Right.
our TV show of choice was the Daredevil Netflix show.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Right,
about.
so we're talking Daredevil, blind guy, and
Right.
Daredevil's girlfriend in the second season is Elektra, right? She's the
Okay.
one with like the
Yeah.
ninja size, right?
Gotcha.
And we're sitting there. We've watched halfway through the season, right? And I go, Zach was dating Danica at the time. They weren't married yet,
Right,
obviously, right? And I go, you know what, Elektra, the lady who plays Elektra looks a little bit like Danica. I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting that, right?
Right.
You look it up and she's like, Danica is half Filipino, right? So this lady
Right.
had these, more Asian features. It just dawned on me, right?
Right.
And Zach goes, "Oh my gosh!" And I said, "What?" He said, "I've been sitting here for 6 episodes trying to figure out why she's so beautiful." And I was like, "It's because
She looks like his
she
girl.
looks like your girl, man. It's because
That must be a Jetzel thing.
I don't know, maybe."
That must be a Jetzel thing. And
Maybe.
I don't know if it starts out that you're attracted to X or you're attracted to X and then everybody who matches X becomes
I think that's
beautiful.
probably what it is.
I know it was for me with
Yeah,
Shelley.
yeah.
Because I dated all kinds of different girls before Shelley. But once I met her, I was stuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there was one other girl who I saw in the mid 80s in the Stark Club. There in Dallas, there was a club called the
Okay.
Stark Club.
What was it? Was it like Fat Albert's at all?
No. Fat Albert's was in the ghetto. Fat Albert's was in the hood.
Okay.
It wasn't in the ghetto.
Which one was more or less like the Purple Rain clubs from the movie?
Fat Albert.
Fat Albert's was more like
Yes,
that one.
yeah.
Okay. Live music,
Well,
funkadelic.
you didn't. No, not always. You had a DJ.
Okay.
So I don't think I ever saw live music at Fat Albert's.
Okay.
But they had, obviously they had music.
Sure.
And I don't even think back then they really had like DJs mixing and stuff. They would just play music.
Yeah, they'd throw the
people would
cassettes
dance.
in, right?
Yeah. So for those that don't remember, I did some work at a Fat Albert's club in
In
the
Dallas.
80s in Dallas. Yeah, in Oak Cliff.
But this one's the Start Club, so this one's a little bit more highfalutin.
This was a more varied.
Clientele.
Yeah, and you'd see everything from gay people there to to Fat Albert's was like 99% black.
Okay.
But this one you'd see everything there.
Yeah.
And it was for the beautiful people. Start Club was for
Yeah,
the
you had
beautiful
Vanilla
people.
Ice over here, and you had, am I right?
Where? At the
At the Start Club.
No, I don't know if Vanilla Ice would have made it in the
A dude who looks like Vanilla Ice.
There
is
you
what I'm
go,
saying.
there
Yeah, that's
you
what I'm
go.
saying. I'm
And
trying to describe, right? You
Yes,
have a dude who looks
yes.
like Vanilla Ice. You
Which-
got a dude who looks like Charlie Murphy over there with the Jerry curl.
Yes, in
Right.
in Fat Albert's. Definitely.
Oh, well,
But you also had him in the Start Club.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
If
yeah.
he was exceptionally handsome.
Okay.
Like you
Okay.
couldn't just walk into the Start Club.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
I got
The
in
bouncer
'cause
at the door was
he was keeping
profiling.
people out. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was lucky to get in because I was with some dudes that were handsome.
Okay.
That's how I got in.
okay.
And I think
Well,
I paid
mean-
a pretty hefty cover charge too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
think I
said
had
to the
to buy
bouncer, you said, you want to meet my friend Jackson? You know? Yeah. I have a couple Washingtons I'd like to meet you.
Yeah, but I ended up in there and I saw well, crap, I can't remember her name now.
I've heard this story, so I know who it is.
But okay,
Carmen Electra.
Carmen Electra. Yeah, but I was surprised because she was tiny.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't have been 100 pounds. But all 100 pounds every pound was worth a lot more than a pound. Boy. Yeah. And she was
packing that 100 pounds.
Man, she packed a lot into 100 pounds. Probably the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen in real life. Even more beautiful than Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
And she had there was a magnetism around
But she
her.
was what, like 5'4" or something?
You know
Teeny-weeny,
what?
right?
She was tiny.
Okay.
And I don't know if it
How
was
tall
maybe
was Sandra Bullock, you think?
I don't know. She couldn't be much taller. I don't
Okay.
think either of them are tall.
A lot of those ladies are teeny-weeny, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the dudes are too, for that
The
matter,
dudes
right?
are too, and
the
that's
dudes
why-
in Hollywood are a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I saw her at that club, and she was one that, like, there was an aura around her.
Sure.
Even if she had people around her, like
Yeah.
she glowed among
Yeah.
all these other people.
Yeah. She glowed like Michelle Pfeiffer in Scarface.
Yeah.
When Tony Montana looks
Before
around.
she got strung out on cocaine.
yeah. At the beginning of Scarface.
The beginning of Scarface.
Yeah. When Tony Montana looks across the club and there's that glow around Michelle Pfeiffer,
Yeah.
that's what Carmen Electra
Yeah.
was doing.
Yeah, she had the same.
Probably the same music playing about the same time.
Probably
too.
so. Well, no,
Push it to the limit. No,
Scarface
I'm
was
just
a
playing.
little earlier.
Yeah,
I
a little
think.
earlier than that.
Yeah. Or you know who else I would have compared her to? The glow around her was in The Mask.
Man.
The sultry singer in The Mask.
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz in The Mask was top notch, beautiful, right? And that's kind of how Carmen Electra looked when I saw her. I was like,
That's one of those girls that is the.
if you're a teen when you see that, don't show your teens that movie because it'll change them.
I mean,
it'll make 'em men.
I saw it before I was a teen,
And you knew.
and I was like, that might be
Whoa.
the prettiest lady I'd ever seen up to that
I think
point.
that's when you became a man. That's when you said-
Probably, yeah. I said, Stanley Ipkiss, you are a lucky man. I'm pretty sure that's Jim Carrey's name. in the movie.
That is his,
Yeah,
his
yeah,
name.
yeah. At
Stanley
the Coco
Ipkiss.
Bongo Club.
The Coco Bongo Club. Yeah, that's right. That
Yep.
was a great. So that's an interesting concept, though, right?
Yeah,
Because at some point when we're little boys, at some point we see a girl
yeah.
and it changes us,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of times it's not the girls at school or anything like that or anybody we see in public.
Yeah.
It's a TV show or somebody.
Yeah.
Do you have?
It was Cameron Diaz from The Mask.
That's why.
It probably
That's why
was.
I wondered.
And you know what? The crazy part was, my wife's in the room, so don't be mad at me, Carrie. It wasn't the scene in the club where she's singing like Jessica Rabbit.
Right.
It was when she first shows up in the bank, and she's coming in out of the rain.
Right.
And Stanley and his buddy are like, holy
And don't
moly.
they slow it down and she gives it one
Yep,
of those?
and they've got that whiny saxophone playing for sure, you know? Yes, a little Careless Whisper playing in the background for sure,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Or a version of that, you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Jessica Rabbit. Because that was the one.
That's a whole nother category.
That
by
was
way,
the one that made me a
cartoon.
man.
The cartoon, what? Well, that had been a real lady. Let's not go
No,
there.
well, okay. You know what?
A real lady.
You know what? I can't recall. I mean, there were a couple of supermodels I remember when I was a kid, and it was probably in my mid-teens or so. But MTV was coming out, and I'm going to jump back to a name we've talked about. When MTV came out, and you could start watching videos, and Whitesnake came out, and Tawny Katane showed up.
Man.
Yeah, and then Toto came. Toto had a song. I can't remember. Rosanna maybe or something. I can't remember. Maybe the Toto song Rosanna.
Yeah.
There's a girl strutting around in that one that's just beautiful too.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah. So videos, I really
Yeah.
MTV messed me up.
you know what? There was another girl, but then Cameron Diaz did leapfrogger.
Okay.
And it was Kimberly, the Pink Ranger from Power Rangers. she was gorgeous, man.
It always goes back to
Right?
Power Rangers.
It's always
you know?
about Power Rangers for me. But she was my crush because of the frequency. I watched Power Rangers all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
But we got the VHS tape of that, didn't we? And you
Yeah,
just
of
could
course.
watch it
Of
every
course.
time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Cameron Diaz was on another level. And I think
Yeah.
it's because they did sexualize her a little bit in that
course,
movie. You
of
know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah.
She was meant to be sultry and you know.
Yeah.
That movie rocks, man. I haven't watched that movie in forever. The Mask is great, isn't it?
The Mask is top notch, man.
So good.
It's underrated, but it's one of his. To me, it's one of his.
I think
better
he
ones.
might have done that movie. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that movie, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura might have all come out in the same year.
He was hitting on all cylinders for quite a while there.
He was, no misses from that dude.
Well, speaking of the Dumb and Dumber, the girl in Dumb and Dumber was a pretty
Super pretty.
pretty good looking
Yeah.
girl too.
Anyway, let's get back to the matter at hand.
We fell right off.
Yeah,
the
sorry.
edge there,
Excuse
didn't
us for
we?
being men. You know.
And talking about when we went from boys to men, right?
Yeah.
That was that
So
one.
back to it. You said we were talking about famous people you met,
Right.
And you talked about the couple people you saw in the airport and the club, and then you said, I think you were about to tell me someone you actually might have met.
No, I don't. I'd have to rack my brain, but there's
Okay.
nobody that just jumps out at me.
Okay, so I'm going to
you
lead
heard a
I'm
story?
going to lead the witness a little
I'm
bit.
glad you are.
Did you or did you not have a business meeting with Mark Cuban?
Yes, I did. I forgot about that.
Okay, can you tell me the
Yeah.
Mark Cuban and tell me what leads up to that, right?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to this is in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yes, when
it
he
would have
bought
been
the
early
team.
2000s.
When he bought the team.
When he bought the team. Okay. So this is way before Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mark
Let's hear
Cuban
it.
buys the team,
Okay.
and they get these offices in a place called Deep Ellum, just outside of downtown. And the office you could just walk right into. It wasn't like a fancy building or anything. And so I'm thinking I'd like to meet Mark Cuban. At the time, I fancied myself a marketing consultant, you know.
Yeah. You've told
Which-
some marketing consultant
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question about
Okay.
it, right? Because everybody knows Mark Cuban from being the Dallas Mavericks owner and
Yeah.
from Shark Tank and all that kind of stuff. What did he make his money on initially?
I think
What
he-
made him the millionaire billionaire that allowed him to buy the Mavericks?
I think he created some sort of streaming service so he could watch his favorite Indiana basketball.
Okay.
And he did something, somehow he developed some
He
streaming
was one of those
service.
internet pioneers.
Yes.
Okay.
And he sold that and got stock for it and made billions off of it.
Okay.
And that's how he bought the Mavericks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's more details on
And he
this
bought
in
it for
there.
pennies on the dollar, basically.
Back then, yeah, I guess so now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then it was crazy what
Yeah.
he paid for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he had just moved in. And he hadn't been there long, maybe a year. And I realized his office is in Deep Ellum, and I'm like, I'd love to meet him and just pitch my marketing expertise to him, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I was so stupid. There's no way he's going to do it. But
yeah.
so I went in and
Now, so sorry, I'm
yeah.
the story that I remember you telling at one point. What about the pitching machine? Didn't you want to pitch that? To
Oh
him
yeah,
too?
yeah. No, I pitched that to Rudy Harmelio. He was the hitting coach for the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
And I did meet him.
Okay.
Yeah, but
'Cause
nobody
you
would
built
know who
this
he
like
is.
homemade with a motor and with a
Yeah.
ball.
It
Yeah,
pitched
yeah.
little tiny golf ball wiffle balls.
Sure.
And I did that for myself because I love to hit.
Yeah.
And I tried to pitch it to him. He didn't want anything to do with
See,
it.
I thought that was the Mark Cuban story.
No,
and
no.
that was like the first Shark Tank that might have ever happened, where he said, I'm not interested.
No,
Okay.
so with Mark Cuban,
It was marketing.
I went into his office and he had a series of gatekeepers.
Sure. As he should.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was a slick enough guy and was persistent enough and could talk my way through some stuff. And I get to his main secretary and I realize there's nothing I can say that's going to get me through the door. Just say. So I have this bright idea to go buy a couple of lottery tickets.
Okay.
And I put them in an envelope.
And that's how you've been doing all the secretaries,
Oh,
right?
I've been working my way through it.
Yeah, you bought her gift cards or
Gift cards, flowers.
You
I
noticed
bought
one
her
lady
flowers.
had a box of donuts in her trash bin, so you brought her the best donuts.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I knew it was going to be really hard to get through that lady.
Yeah, that last one has got to be the toughest.
And so I put a couple of lottery tickets in an envelope, and I set them on her desk, and I said, I'd love to chat with Mark for 15 minutes, but I know
There's no
you
way.
can't allow that. So just take these lottery tickets. If you win, congratulations, but I don't know what else to do to get in. And so for 3 or 4 weeks straight, I would just walk in
Give her a lottery
and
tickets.
give her a couple of lottery tickets, and they would cost me $5 a pop or something.
Yeah.
So for $10, I'm in front of her, right?
Yeah.
And after about the third or fourth time, she said, "You know what? I can get you about 15 minutes."
Okay.
So I get in there one day, and I remember going through and walking into his office, and it wasn't a big office. It was just normal stuff,
Yeah.
And he says, "How did you get in here?"
Yeah.
That was his first question.
Yeah.
And I said, I bribed my way in. And he said, "Well, my secretaries are above bribery." And I said, "Well, And I thought if I
Yeah. You're
just getting in.
Yeah, maybe I can charm Mark Cuban
Just
also.
getting in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, "All right, you got 10 minutes." And I gave him my best pitch for a marketing consultant. And he's like, "All right, I got to go." And I left an audio CD of
Your program.
my program.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I never heard back from him.
Okay.
But he wasn't, and I've told you this, he wasn't friendly. He wasn't super nice. He was just super busy.
Yeah.
And he was still young, so I think he wasn't too arrogant yet, but he was still pretty arrogant. And he
I would
seems to have
imagine he's
gotten
probably
more-
gotten more humble the older he's gotten too.
Well, from what I've seen, I don't know.
It depends, right?
yeah.
Because there's like that slide scale of because he's obviously made way more money,
Yeah.
right? And that can slide people up the arrogant scale, but life experience can slide you down. So you never
Yeah.
know what you're going to get with those.
Well,
dudes.
and you and I both have a friend who is
That
internet
level,
famous now.
that level type guy.
And we won't
Yeah.
mention his name,
Yeah.
but he owns a big giant software company, and we used to go to church with him, and I used to visit his family
Yeah.
in their home
Yeah.
and got to know him real well.
Yeah.
And he's a guy,
The best of dudes.
this guy is the best of dudes. And I wonder if we say his name will we get in trouble. He wouldn't.
No,
care, would he?
we'll save it for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he and I had conversations about family, and he's become famous. I mean,
Yeah.
he's on.
He
He's
was
on the
doing
scale.
real well when we were visiting with him.
Yeah.
And then since he's blown up even more.
And he
so.
actually he mentioned you in one of his books. I believe his very first book.
Yeah.
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 A story that you had that
Uh-huh.
you told him that he put it in one of his
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, because he had this kind of internet marketing deal, and he gave me a job over the summer before I went to college for the first
Right,
time.
right.
So I was in his
Yeah.
office, I borrowed books off of his shelf, listened to what he had going on. So
Right.
yeah, real slick dude.
And I only mention him because, in contrast to what I saw in Mark Cuban,
Sure.
this guy is salt of the earth, greatest guy you've ever met. Obviously, he has to be very careful with his time because of
course.
what's going on.
Yeah.
But he reaches out to me probably once every couple of years just to. Usually he needs something.
Yeah.
Because we used to have these great conversations where I
Yeah.
described to him some of the things I'd done in our family.
Yeah.
And as his family got older, he'd say, "Hey Kyle, can you remind me of this? We had this discussion."
Sure.
And
yeah.
I like to document things.
Yeah, because you've got grown kids now.
Yes.
And his kids are
are
growing.
just getting there.
Yeah.
I think his oldest maybe graduated just this year.
High school.
Yeah. And you've been graduated for 10, 15, 12
Yeah,
years.
12 years,
12
yeah.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been through the steps that he's going through now. And because of we have a happy family and it's pretty evident to people,
Sure.
will reach out and ask me questions, or I'll probably send him a message before too long just to check on him
Cool.
too. let him know I'm thinking about him. But
Yeah.
he's
But there
one of
was a
those guys-
contrast between Mark and the guy that we know.
because this guy
Yeah.
is a family man. He's a great dude,
Yeah.
and
He took a pay cut to go coach his son's wrestling
He
and
did.
stuff,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
right.
You know,
He stepped away from his business and because he didn't want to miss his kids growing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he could have easily justified it because of who he was and what he had to do.
yeah,
So yeah, there's both kinds of those guys out
Yeah.
there making a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's probably what we'll wrap up.
'Kay.
We haven't met that many famous people.
We
Here's
haven't.
here's to meeting some more in the future.
Yes, we'd
right?
love to meet
Sandra
you.
Bullock, if you're out there.
Yeah.
You
Tawny
wanna-
Katane, we know she passed
Yeah,
away.
since that second
Yeah.
episode where we
Tawny
gushed about
Katane's
her.
sister.
Especially
Scrawny-
if you can cook, right?
Scrawny Katane.
Get out of here.
All right, see you next
See
time.
you guys.